You know that feeling you get when you're watching a Tim Burton movie? Creepy but cozy, unsettling but oddly charming. That sweet spot where the macabre still feels playful. Well, today we're going to dive into 10 indie games that captured that exact vibe. If Tim Burton or Edward Gorey had ever been handed a survival manual, it would probably look a lot like Don't Starve. Developed by Clay Entertainment, this is a survival game where the world itself feels hostile in ways both cartoonish and unsettling. You play as Wilson, or one of several other oddball characters, thrown into a wilderness stitched together from shadows and sharp corners. Starvation, madness, and monsters are always closing in, and the hand-drawn art style leans into thin lines and exaggerated proportions that make even a rabbit feel vaguely sinister. The tension comes from the game's balancing act. Slapstick absurdity colliding with genuine peril. It's a game that wants you to fail, to panic, and also laugh nervously at the bizarre creatures trying to kill you. Thomas Brush's Pinstripe is a deeply personal platformer about a man named Ted searching for his daughter in a bizarre, frozen version of hell. The game mixes puzzles, platforming, and dialogue with characters that are as grotesque as they are fascinating. The hand-painted art is crisp and haunting, with muted colors offset by glowing highlights that make the world feel trapped in perpetual twilight. But maybe the most striking thing about Pinstripe is the shifting tone. One minute you could be chuckling at absurd dialogue, and the next you're dealing with something absolutely devastating. The pacing moves like a fever dream, fragmented, surreal, but always drawing you deeper into the frozen abyss. It's not long, but it's very memorable. Among the Sleep takes a perspective rarely used in games. You're a toddler trapped in a house that grows more nightmarish with every step. Developed by Krillbite Studio, it's a first-person horror game where your small size and limited mobility become the central mechanics. Crawling under tables, clutching your teddy bear, and stumbling through hallways, the world looms over you in a way that makes the ordinary absolutely terrifying. The story gradually peels back layers of metaphor, transforming household fears into manifestations of something much darker. It's not just about the monsters chasing you here. It's about the vulnerability of being small in a world that doesn't feel safe. And the end result lands way harder emotionally than the premise would suggest. Fran Bow, developed by Kill Monday Games, dives headlong into psychological horror. It follows a young girl coping with trauma, institutionalization, and the blurred line between reality and nightmare. The point-and-click structure may be familiar, but the tone is relentless. Grotesque creatures, surreal environments, and puzzles that echo Fran's fractured state of mind. The storybook-like art style contrasts childlike imagery with deeply unsettling subject matter. Seriously, I want to give a very clear trigger warning for this game. But this is also part of the game's strength. It's not just creepy for its own sake. It confronts mental illness, grief, and the desperate need for connection. It's challenging not because of the difficulty of gameplay, but because of what it asks you to sit with and to think about. Prim from developer Common Colors is a point-and-click adventure that feels instantly timeless. It centers on the titular Prim, the daughter of Death, who sneaks out of the underworld against her father's wishes. Though the plot is straightforward there, it opens up into a layered story about curiosity, independence, and the pull of the living world. The art style is gorgeous within its grayscale limitations, detailed down to the smallest flourish, and with animation that feels like charcoal sketches come to life. Gameplay stays rooted in classic adventure design. Dialogue, puzzles, exploration, but wrapped in a world that feels equal parts sinister and also silly. Picture a little bit of Wednesday Addams with a sprinkle of Beetlejuice. Clever humor, witty sarcasm, and just enough emotional charm to tie it all together. Few games capture the uneasy quiet of childhood like Children of Silentown. Developed by Elf Games and Luna 2 Studio, this is a point-and-click adventure about a girl named Lucy growing up in a village where talking too loudly or wandering too far might attract monsters from the surrounding forest. The art style is soft, yet still eerie, with stitched textures and muted tones that feel handcrafted. Gameplay focuses on puzzles and exploration, but the story carries most of the weight. a mix of childhood curiosity, generational fear, and the dangers of silence itself. The unsettling twist is that the monsters aren't the only threat. The adults, with their rigid rules and refusal to explain, feel just as dangerous as anything lurking in the woods. The original Lost and Random came out under EA's indie label, which made folks question whether it really counted as an indie game. However, its follow-up, The Eternal Die, clears things up a little bit. Developed by Stormteller Games and published by Thunderful, this one's firmly back in indie territory, even though it shares the same surreal world of living dice and kingdoms ruled by chance. Gameplay leans into roguelite mechanics this time, with each run rolling you into new combat scenarios, arenas, and power-ups. But what keeps this engaging is the way it pairs the fairytale world building with tactical deck building combat. The visuals are crooked and off-kilter as ever, full of spindly architecture and characters that look like they belong on mismatched playing cards. It's a strange hybrid, part action, part strategy, and all wrapped up with what feels like a long-lost dark fairy tale. The Midnight Walk feels like stepping into a stop-motion nightmare where every corner could be hiding some new creature your sleep paralysis demon might want to take a cue from. You play as the Burnt One, a lonely figure in a world where the sun has vanished. Your only guide is Potboy, a little lantern creature whose flickering flame keeps you safe as you journey toward the peak of Moon Mountain to bring the light back. Instead of combat, the game leans on atmosphere and clever mechanics, using fire to solve puzzles or slipping past creatures that hunt in the shadows. You can even close your eyes to let the sound guide you when vision can't be trusted. Every scene feels handmade, because it literally is. Clay figures and sets were sculpted, scanned, and animated, giving the whole game a beautifully imperfect and tactile feel. It's an eerie and a little sad story, but also one that's strangely hopeful, like finding yourself lost in a dark basement as a kid, with the promise of light waiting for you at the top of the stairs. Imagine being stuck inside your own dream and slowly realizing you might not ever wake up. That's Darq. You're Lloyd, a boy trapped in a lucid nightmare where everything around you defies logic. Your weapon against this nightmare? Lucid dreaming in the form of gravity manipulation. You stroll along a wall, and it becomes your floor. Flip the room on its axis, tilt the scenery, and suddenly the hallway you just walked through is now a ceiling. These world-bending puzzles are constantly surprising, but never really frustrating, in part thanks to their careful pacing. There's no flashy combat system here. When grotesque limp-limbed monsters show up, like lamp-shaded ladies, twitching bandage demons, or wheelchair-bound trombone men, you have three choices: sneak, hide, or run. Okay, so zombies aren't exactly rare in video games, but Gloomy Eyes treats them with more poetry than most. Developed by 3DAR, this is a storybook brought to life through diorama-style animation. The game follows a zombie boy named Gloomy, who, instead of lurking in the shadows, finds himself tangled in a story about love, prejudice, and the weight of being an outsider as he meets the other protagonist of the story, Nina. The art style immediately grabs you. Tiny 3D worlds suspended in the dark like pop-up sets illuminated by candlelight. It feels more like peeking into a miniature theater than playing a traditional game. The controls are pared down, leaving narration and visual storytelling to carry the experience, and while it's short, it is hauntingly beautiful in both story, atmosphere, and design, making it perfect for our #1 spot. And that's our list of 10 indie games that captured Tim Burton's signature style, blending eerie with enchanting and the grotesque with the beautiful. Which of these games have you played before, and which ones are you excited about adding to your wishlist? Let me know in the comments below. If you want deeper dives into indie games, check out Indie Game Arcade every Wednesday and Friday wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.